Any follow-up from Tuesday's discussion about how to help your spouse in their business endeavors? How to make things go smoother in your business life in conjunction with your family? Any thoughts you didn't get to share that you still wanted to share? Anything, come on, I'm begging you, say something. Okay, Anthony.
I thought become passionate about their business.
Become
passionate about their business?
What do you think that means?
Well, the idea that usually when you're passionate about something, you're more engaged, you love it, and it kind of becomes a part of you. So if their business is to, say for example, do tours in Salt Lake, then learn more about Salt Lake. Learn more about the tourism industry, so that if somebody does actually come up to you and say, well, what does your husband do? It's like, oh, you don't know? He does. And then it's because it's a part of you. And I've learned that.
So did you mean passionate or compassionate?
Be passionate.
Oh, I thought you said be compassionate. Sorry. But you want to be compassionate too. When they're having a bad day, you want to help them.
That was a different one.
Yeah. So isn't that was the idea about being the best cheerleader for your spouse's endeavors? Okay. And this is a hard one. Let me give you a personal example. And stop me if I already told you about this one. But as you probably know, I think I've been divorced once and widowed once. I'm actually been married now to my third wife for 17 years. So I've seen, a little more than the average person as far as the marital scene. And my first wife, met her 2 weeks after I got home from my mission at an institute class. Just fell dramatically. Just, it was wonderful. I mean, couldn't have been choreographed any better. And we got married the following summer. And I remember going to her home ward. She was in a singles ward where she was the Ruth Side president of her singles ward. And yet we went to her home ward, and I remember just sitting back on the back row, and she would walk up and down the aisles talking to everyone, and old ladies would grab her and hug her, and everybody in her home ward loved her, especially the old people. And I thought, wow, they love her. I want to love her too. And so I remember that was one of the turning points in our relationship. But she had spoken on the floor of the Utah State Senate. She was girls' state. She was the finalist. She lost in the finals for the student body president of the largest high school in Utah at the time. So, she was a mover, a shaker, an aggressive young woman. And so when we got together and got married, we finished school, and then we went to work for a couple years with an oil company, and then we went back to Harvard. And guess what happened? Then a year before we got to Harvard, we had a baby. So I'm in school at Harvard doing all these Harvard-ish things, and she's at home with a baby. And she's used to attention. She's used to being in the limelight herself, and suddenly she's at home in an apartment with a little screaming baby. So can you see the tension that put in our relationship? So don't go into your marriage naively thinking, oh, we got married in the temple, everything will be okay. That doesn't guarantee you're going to not have lots of problems. So I was aggressive, hard charging. She was aggressive, hard charging. I was able to keep going on that path. She stopped. So how do you think that went for her emotionally when the applause for her stopped? That triggered her hidden manic depression, And so it came out that she had bipolar disease, and boy, that just plummeted down from there. So that was an issue I think a lot of couples, and especially you women, that you'll get your education, you'll maybe start in a career, and then, oops, what if you get married and then you have to stop your career? You'll have to readjust how you get your kudos, how you get your applause, because you won't be getting bonuses and promotions and getting to speak in front of the large audiences. You'll be home with spit up on your shoulder. And so you need to be able to deal with that, and you need to work with your spouse to know how to deal with that. Because you will be resentful sometimes that, hey, my spouse is still in the limelight. My spouse is Businessman of the Year award, and I could have done that. I'm just as smart as my husband. Why am I not getting small business awards, and why am I not in the newspapers for starting up this great social enterprise? So you have to deal with those things, or as I can testify, it caused a problem in our marriage. I see it here with the senior missionaries. You have probably 50 missionaries here at BYU Hawaii or the PCC. And it happens, I actually talked to a friend, it happens as mission presidents. The mission president is the one who's called. Well, what's the wife's job? Their companion. Mission president. Companion. And you see the tension that can create. The companion feels like a tag-along. I'm here because of my husband. I have given up my friends at home, my routine, the things I like, the way I was getting fulfillment at home, and I'm just tagging along, following my husband in his career or his church calling. I remember a stake presidency once. The member of the stake presidency, when he was released, his marriage went really rocky. And hold it, he's been in a stake presidency, he's a wonderful guy. They shouldn't have marriage problems. Well, he had been away so long doing church business, tied up in the stake presidency, that he wasn't home that much. So when he did come home, he was with his wife more, and they weren't getting along. So I would counsel you, analyze, just like we've been analyzing businesses with our framework, our template of how you analyze businesses. Analyze your marriage and your relationships every bit as much. They're more important, aren't they? What's going to last beyond death? Your small business or your marriage? All right. What do you spend more time with? How much are you going to work as an entrepreneur? Max wrote in his things for his spouse, she needs to be willing to let him work 100 to 120 hours a week when he has a new video game coming out for release. The last crunch time before release of the game, he's going to be working night and day, and he realizes he needs to talk about that with his spouse so she is prepared for never seeing him for a month every 2 or 3 years. And realizing, hey, this is a special time. This isn't like it's going to be our whole life. This is just 1 month. And so if he has forewarned her and they've talked about it, it's going to go a lot more smoothly than if suddenly she realizes, you're never here. I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. Why do I have all the kids,
When you do own your own business, aren't you able to share it with your wife in a way that maybe one day she could go to work because she's just as qualified as you are, and you can stay home with the baby and kind of switch off like that every now and then so each of you has the limelight, if you are an entrepreneur?
If everyone's going to be different. Everyone, you're going to have to analyze your own unique situation. Like, my wife has no desire to go back to work. She had a chain of party stores in the malls in Utah, selling balloons. I didn't know this, but one of her best things was she would put roses up inside an inflated balloon. She had a machine that would insert a red rose inside the balloon, and that was big in BYU territory. And so, she put engagement rings inside. She could put anything inside the balloon, but you know, her birthday is the day before Valentine's Day. Guess when was her busiest day of the year? Her birthday. She hated that. She never wants to work retail again, you know. So, you know, she was working when all the rest of us were having our holidays. So for us, you know, we worked that out. She's very happy to stay at home and quilt and walk with her friends and not have to worry about earning a living. You know, other women may be different. Other men may be different. You know, I mentioned the fellow in my ward who he's a stay-at-home dad and his wife's the dentist. You know, that's what they've worked out, and he's now the scoutmaster. He took my job as scoutmaster, and he and his wife is the primary president. So they're busy in their church callings and their professional callings. Another thing too I would counsel you on is some of the things will happen with where you're coming from and where you're going. Like Tony and Abigail, they have some special challenges. You know, Tony from Nigeria, Abigail, where did you grow up? Utah. That adds an extra level of difficulty to their marriage. They have grown up in different cultures. They've seen different ways families run. And, you know, if they move to Nigeria, that's going to be stressful for Abigail. And if they move to Utah or Florida or someplace, that's going to be tough on Tony. And that will add an extra level of tension that they're going to have to work through to make their marriage successful. So if you just think, oh, that'll work out, you know, I don't have to, if you have never even analyzed that, you're in trouble and you will be blindsided. So the bottom line takeaway is analyze your marriage as much as you analyze your business. Okay? That will pay big dividends if you are prepared to deal with, you know, what do you do for a business? Do you do contingency planning? What if we get a big hurricane in Hawaii? How will that affect my business today? You know, what if I get a big hurricane in my marriage? How will that affect my marriage and my business? You know, you have to do it both ways. Your marriage will affect your business, and your business will affect your marriage. And if you just totally separate the two and just isolate business over here and isolate family and marriage over here, and you don't think about how they interact, you're going to be in tough shape when you have some crises that come up that give you some problems. Any comment, anything that you've seen that you want to share as far as the marriage, business, family interaction that you've seen in your families growing up? Shem.
Just like what you're saying is totally true. When I got married, like I never thought like, you know, you think that you're always going to be together, but then once you have like children, you know, just time gets so separated from when it was just you and your wife, and things just get so, you know, your life just becomes more complicated for the better, obviously. But I think that's definitely something that like we should have talked about, like when we were dating, like when, you know, we're still in school, we have children, and I have a job. We're not going to be able to be together like we are right now. Like, we got to be able to live with that for a little while at least, you know. So it's not like, whoa, like why don't we ever see each other anymore? So it's like, I don't know. It's definitely a good thing to talk about.
Yeah. And you have to keep talking about it. You don't do it just once. I mean, here, I'm twice as busy now here at BYU Hawaii than I was in Utah before I came here this fall. And that has put an extra level of stress on my marriage. I'm here on campus. My wife's off doing her volunteer activities here on campus. I've been working out of my house for the last 14 years, seeing my wife all day long. For the last 2 months, we've hardly seen each other. So it's something that happens at 50 as well as 25. You got to always stay on top of it. How many have your books with you today? Okay. How many of you are ready to talk about chapters 5, 6, and 8? Okay. Another housekeeping note. Are we close on being able to get something out?
I have their total points.
Yeah, I saw that.
I still have to figure out.
Okay, not to, we're, between now and next Tuesday, we'll have your interim grades ready for you. I was looking at them yesterday. Let me see if I have my calculations here. 12 of you are currently at the A level, 8 at the B level, 9 at the C level, and 3 at the D level. Okay. There's been a total of 199 points possible, and unfortunately, a few of you have less than 50% of those points. So we'll let you know that either in writing on Tuesday, or we'll send it to you in an email in the next few days. If you want to stay after class, if you're really worried, I'll give it to you. I don't have your numbers, but I did give you what I thought was where you were at. These can change, midterm grades just as an accumulation. Some of you haven't turned in everything yet, so you can still get some more points for past assignments. And, I'm not a big grade Nazi. I'm one to help you learn. I don't care. If you care about what your grade is, okay, that's important. I don't really care what your grade is. I want you to come away from this class and 20 years from now, remember something. And remember a skill or an idea or a thought that you got from this class. Because, frankly, I'm an engineer undergrad. I got an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering. Could I take any of those chemical engineering classes today and take any of their tests and come even close to getting a D? I wouldn't think so. I probably cannot work any one of those problems that I worked 30 years ago. So what is the purpose of being in class here? One is to get just a general feel of how to learn, how to get by, to get your basic degree, to get your foot in the door. Like, what's the best thing that I got from my Harvard Business School degree, my MBA? Here's what we say it in English. I got my foot in the door. I got an opportunity to have an internship with the largest mutual fund manager in the world between first and second year of business school. They took one from UCLA and one student from Harvard. And I got to be the one from Harvard. And I got my foot in the door of that industry. So when I was then interviewing full-time at the end of my second year, all the other companies saw where I had internshipped my mid-year and thought, wow, you interned with them? So that was a good stamp of approval. So that got my foot in the door. It didn't guarantee that I was going to do really well. It just got me the opportunity. Okay? Do you understand that? Just having a college degree isn't going to get you a great job, but a lot of jobs won't even look at you unless you have a college degree, which is sad because there are a lot of people that don't have college degrees that are really sharp and could do very well. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs never finish college. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard. He didn't need Harvard, that stamp of approval, to start his business. He was able to do it on his own, and so he did well. Otherwise, if you don't have any way to get through that door, if that door is totally closed to you right now, you need to find some way of getting into that door. So that's what a degree can do for you. All right. Any general questions on grades? I'm really open to extra work. If you're way behind and you really care about what grade you get, I will assign you special extra work projects to help you, learn some skills that you've missed and to give you some more points. If you need an A for your GPA, if that's really important to you, I will help you do the work to get it. I won't just give you the A, but I will help you do things that will allow you to get that grade if you want. Like, here's one. this may sound a little corny, and don't be offended, but everyone who's single, stand up. Okay, so you can see, okay, so you can see, you look around and say, oh, that cute girl, she's already taken, huh? That guy, he's already taken. Okay, so these are the single people in the room. I will give bonus points if you email me and say you have gone out on a date and discussed social entrepreneur ideas with someone in the class, okay? And if you initiated it, you get more points. And if you paid for any of the expenses of the date, you'll also get more points.
That's not fair, because they
What?
do it every day.
Works for the marrieds too? We should
Yes,
marry.
if you take your spouse out, if you take your spouses out or a friend and you share with them what you've learned in the class, like if you talk about today's discussion, what we just talked about, if you talk about that with your spouse and email me and tell me about it, I'll give you points. Okay?
Take it to the Cuckoo Grill, an extra 10 points on me.
I think that means 10%.
All right. Obviously, you can tell our Hanneman fellows, they run the Kahuku Grill, okay? I told my wife I'm coming there tonight. Are you open at nights?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're there at nights. Okay, so are you breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or just
Lunch and dinner, 11
Lunch?
to 9.
11 to 9? Okay.
Best coconut shrimp on the island. Yeah, it's cheap. Way.
What?
We'll take that compliment. Thank you.
I'll be good.
Coconut's the only thing I don't eat.
Oh,
Can you imagine me why? Seriously. Yeah. Right. When I was 8 years old, I had rheumatic fever. And I missed being baptized because I was in the hospital. And they gave me liquid penicillin, and it was tropical flavored. So I've always not liked that. Yeah. All right. Here's another way you can earn some points. If we have I don't know if I've mentioned it, they've asked me to come back and teach here winter semester. I was just supposed to be here one semester. The person was coming to teach this class winter semester, January 2011, can't come, so they've asked me to come back in January. I'll be teaching 2 sections of this class, and if you get a friend that wasn't going to take this class and you convince them to come and take this class, and they actually, if I see that they're registered for the class and they email me and say it's because Max told me to take this class, we'll give you some bonus points. So you're my marketing arm. If you get my class levels up for winter semester, we'll give you some bonus points. Okay. See, I'm real open to creative ways. You come to me with any kind of idea, say, I want to do this to get some bonus points, and we'll discuss it, okay? Okay, we're here to help you succeed. We want you, if you've already had some problems in your life the last couple months that have kept you from being in class as much as you can be, et cetera, we want to help you overcome that. We don't want to have you go away and not be happy. We're like the Nordstroms of BYU Hawaii. We want you to be 100% satisfied as a customer. Okay? Do you know what they do? What's the Nordstroms customer service mantra?
Use your best judgment.
What?
I have been there. I think they say that use your best judgment for serving the customer.
Okay. They give a lot of leeway to the salespeople to bend the rules that are, the general guidelines to make sure the customer's happy. They will, like I have a friend, he has 2 different size feet. And so he is able to go there and buy one shoe in one size and his right shoe in the other size, whereas most shoe stores, they won't do that. They look at it and say, oh, these aren't the same size, you can't have these, But Nordstrom's will sell him 2 different size shoes. And they will also have just a fantastic return policy. You return something a year later, or at least maybe they've changed because maybe they've had many people take advantage of them too much. But for a while, you could return something a year later and get a full refund, even if you'd worn it, even if you'd worn it out. It was 100% no questions asked guarantee. Okay? Yes, Allie.
Can I tell a story about Nordstrom?
Yeah.
my dad, he had a Tommy Bahama shirt, and he bought it.
A what?
Tommy Bahama.
Okay.
And he bought it from the outlet store, and he had the receipt and price tag still on. And a year later, he like found it in his closet. He's like, I'm not gonna wear this. So he took it back to Tommy Bahama, the actual store where he bought it from. They wouldn't accept it. And so Nordstrom was right next door. So he's like, you know what, why not? And so he took it to Nordstrom, and Nordstrom reimbursed him for the shirt. And they didn't give him the retail like discount price they bought at the outlet. They gave him the full retail price for that time.
And he didn't even buy it there. Wow. See? Now, how they lost some money on him that day, right? But how many times have you told that story, Allie? How many times your dad told that story?
To me, he does that for his business, checking other businesses,
Yeah.
customer service.
Yeah. He has been an advertiser for how good Nordstrom's is to all sorts of people. Okay. That's twice, Max. I think Max has had it ring twice and no one else has had it ring once. So you got 2 ahead of everybody else, Max.
It's an alarm. It's not a cell phone call.
What are we doing?
Oh, sorry, Ashlyn Cameron is on.
Oh, cool.
She's online, she asked me if I would put her on.
To say something?
Oh, I can unmute her if you want.
Oh, does she want to say something?
Let's see. Hey, Ashlyn.
Say hello, Ashlyn.
Hi, everybody.
How are you feeling? How's your malaria?
It's a crazy story, but I'm feeling a little bit better.
Okay. Tell the class where you are.
Oh, I'm living in India right now.
Okay, what are you doing?
I was working for a nonprofit, but now we're doing some stuff for church in Delhi. So.
Okay. Tell us a little more about.
Sorry, I kind of had to leave the nonprofit because I had malaria, and then I almost died of my vegetarian diet. So now all is good.
Now, was that a self-imposed vegetarian diet?
It was a religious. The town we were living in was Vrindavan, and it's like a Hindu religious town, and no meat is allowed to be sold in the town. And so when I told them that I had a medical condition on top of malaria that I needed to eat meat, they kindly asked me not to come back.
Interesting.
They were very concerned for my salvation, but I told them that I thought it would be okay if I lived instead of died.
Well, they thought you'd be better off not to eat meat and die and go to heaven, right?
Especially in Vrindavan, because if you die in their Vrindavan, you automatically go to their celestial kingdom. When I got malaria, they thought that was pretty great. I was really blessed because if I died there, I would go straight to the celestial kingdom.
But it's funny we're laughing, but that's people probably laugh about Mormons and their same beliefs, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they thought it was crazy that I was leaving. They're just like, why would you ever do that? You're going to be stuck in the cycle of reincarnation forever. I just told them that I thought I had a lot of life to live, and I loved the work I did there. And we're still doing some distance work for them, and we'll go and visit them on the weekends, but we can't live there anymore.
What were you doing nonprofit there?
We did statistical research and consulting, and so we went with the psychology majors. And then once we finished up that work, we started implementing the recommendations. So we helped them get bigger ticket donors. They were just mainly focusing on individuals. So we helped them use their resources and the data that we gathered to apply for bigger grants. So right now, they're trying to get a Tom's Shoes grant to get 100,000 shoes donated to the kids every year. So until they're 18, they don't have shoes. And we're also helping them get connected to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation so that they can get larger donations to have more sustainable future for their students and the poor children that they help.
Now, I understand from your email there's like 4 or 5 or multiple kinds of malaria, and you had one of the more mild forms?
I had the least deadly, but out of the most deadly ones or something like that.
Okay.
So there's 6 that are really deadly, and I had the least one, and then there's lots of other ones that are just
Uh-huh. What would you like to tell the rest of the class while you have our captive attention about social entrepreneurship that you've learned firsthand?
Oh, it's amazing. And there's a lot of really cool things happening. I think a law was passed this recently in Maryland or Maine or something. And now they're changing the law so that corporations can start to be more focused on social entrepreneurship. So it's a really big thing right now in the world, and I think it's cool. It really affects people's lives. And we've been working really closely and seeing how it helps people. It's really amazing.
Will you research those laws and email them to me so I can share more specifics with the class on that, please? Was that one for yes, two for no? Sounds like we lost her. Huh?
She's there. You're there still, right? Oh, we did lose her.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear my request?
Yeah, I heard it. I can send it over to you.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Ashlyn? Oh, what are you doing now with the church in Bombay?
We're actually in Delhi,
Oh, sorry.
and we're in Delhi, the capital city of India, and they are really interested in BYU Hawaii Online. And I think last month, some of the administrators came and met with the mission president over here, and it just so happened that we had to evacuate, I guess, our little village and come over here, and they're wanting us to help set up some home study online groups so that the young single adults of India can come together and do their online classes in groups and meet each other and date and get married and come to BYU Hawaii, and hopefully by bringing the students together so they get to know one another, they can end the cycle of arranged marriages, because a lot of the young single adults are members of the church and they're active and they want to go on missions, but their parents force them to marry other Hindus, and then it stops the cycle of eternal families. So we're going to try and do something about that.
Well, best wishes. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I thought you might like to know what my top 10 were from General Conference. Okay. I think the points range from like 6 or so to, I think some of you had as high as 19 points on that assignment. Some of you had like 3 of my 10. So remember, this was obviously a very hard one to match, but still some of you got more than twice what a normal assignment would give. So don't feel bad. It was impossible to match more than 3 or 4. That was just not going to happen based on 37 conference talks and trying to read my mind. So don't feel bad. That was just to try and get you to think beyond one little talk and try to think, oh, let's see, how could I apply this to social entrepreneurship? So the first one was from, and you can write these down, or if you want me, I can email them to anyone, so just email me if you want to have my written out sheet. Number 1 was sacrifice was at the heart of social entrepreneurship. Elder Uchtdorf quoted Elder Oaks saying we have to forego some good things in order to choose others that are better or best. And then Elder Holland also talked about sacrifice. Number 2, Elder Uchtdorf, there is beauty and clarity that comes from simplicity that we sometimes do not appreciate in our thirst for intricate solutions. Leonardo da Vinci is quoted as saying that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Has anyone heard of Occam's razor? Who said yes? Are you able to explain it for us? Who said me? Oh,
No, neither of us can.
okay.
Of it, but no.
What sort of a trendy term that's been going around the last couple years. Occam's razor is just the premise that in the world of multiple possibilities, multiple solutions, the most simple explanation is probably the most likely explanation. So that's what goes along with that idea that simplicity is better than our thirst for intricate solutions, and Leonardo da Vinci said simplicity is ultimate sophistication. So if you're like me, when you're brainstorming about how you can make your business better and what you can do and trying to develop your business plan, you can get lulled into quantity and having a big, thick business plan, and a lot of it is just mumbo jumbo, fake stuff. That's why your elevator speech is so important. If you cannot explain what you want to do in your social enterprise in 30 seconds to a 6th grader, you don't know your own idea well enough. Okay? So you need to be able to understand it simplistically and keep it at that level. There might be some complex, like tax or other things that come into play down the road, but you don't need to make it overly complicated to start out. Joni?
What action just did, was that what you would consider an elevator speech?
Which part?
Like when she was talking about the shoes and the grants and where they were trying to hook her up?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. She did more of a purposed, here's what I'm doing, and the shoes are an example of that type of thing. Okay? Obviously, I didn't tell her to do an elevator speech, so she didn't have, she probably hadn't thought about it before that. All right, here was one I got. Totally unexpected, but Saturday afternoon, we sustained the general authorities. Sustainings, are you sustained by your employees? Are you sustained by your family, by your spouse? Do they support what you're doing? So I transferred the idea of church sustainings to sustainings in your social endeavor. Elder Lawrence said in Sunday afternoon, he said, if your spouse doesn't feel good about something, show respect for those feelings. So again, spouse sustainings. Number 4, here was one totally off the wall. No one was going to get this, but I pulled it out as a way, just a different way. Elder Cook talked about the Blitz in Europe when they were bombing London, and they had blackouts. He said, to make it harder for attacking bombers to find a target, blackouts were instituted, lights were turned out, and windows were draped. And I pulled from that, I said, a social entrepreneur or a general entrepreneur doesn't always want to give all their information to the world to show their competitors what they're doing. So have a blackout sometimes on your key things that are crucial for you, your proprietary, unique things. That's one thing I used to get upset with is I would go out as a stock analyst and I'd visit different public companies, and I'd go into, see the CEO, and I'd have a meeting with him for, Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks from today. And the next week I would hear from someone, oh, I understand you're going in to see company XYZ. And I say, how did you find out? Oh, the CEO is saying, hey, we're having this analyst come visit us, in 2 weeks. And that would bother me because that was tipping the hand to the world that I was checking out this company. So if they knew that I was looking at this company, I was maybe going to, suggest buying their stock, that would allow other people to get in and buy and push the price up before I'd actually recommended the stock. So I wanted company management to keep secret the fact that I was visiting their company.
But that's good for him though, right? Because he gets more people to buy stock in his company.
Well, but it made me less likely to recommend his stock then.
Oh, okay.
I distrusted him a little bit. I didn't think he was as bright as I thought he should be to run his company. And if the price went up too much before I recommended it, I wasn't going to recommend it. So he could miss out on getting my recognition entirely. So he got maybe half the push that he could have if he'd gotten my full push. Okay. Number 5, we go along with that, build trust. Elder Scott talked about that. Number 6, customize your efforts. Elder Irene, or President Irene said, I prayed and pondered to learn about your personal needs and what the Lord wanted me to give. So customize. Number 7, I thought President Monson talked about walking with the spirit of thanksgiving, and some of you actually got this one. I'd never thought the Savior gave thanks. You know, remember when he was doing the miracle of the loaves and the fishes? You know, here he is, the Son of God, the creator of the earth, and yet before he did that, he gave thanks to the Father. So what an example for us to be grateful and give thanks in whatever we're doing at our much lower station in life. Rise early and be invigorated. That was Elder Mazzagardi. Number 9, here was a twist one. The first thing that struck me, President Monson in Saturday morning, he talked about we're thankful for all the senior couples, and he said we need many, many, many more. So one thing to do in your businesses, just like they're doing here at BYU Hawaii, is see if you can get volunteers. If you're trying to start something up, don't always think, oh, I got to pay these people. See if you can get some people to donate their time and effort to your cause. Okay? And number 10, attitude. What matters most is the attitude by which and they had teacher, but I thought by the social entrepreneur, how they perform. Elder Uchtdorf also said, it comes as we go about our work with an attitude of serving God and our fellow man. And there was a bonus one. President Uchtdorf said, this coach knew that even those experienced players and even the team could become great only by mastering the fundamentals. So you got to have the basics before you can jump to the penthouse level ideas in your business. If you don't have the basic foundation ready, you can't build the 20-story penthouse. Anyone familiar with this quote? Yeah. All right. I had this one on my wall growing up. This was by the phone in the downstairs desk area. So I've seen this my whole life. So that's why I had it memorized. I didn't even have to have it on my notes. So what's the last word? No. All that is necessary for the force of evil to win in this world is for enough good men to do nothing. We don't have to have good people do bad things. You know, if they just sit on their hands and do nothing, that will be sufficient for letting Satan get his way. All right, if you would, turn around and, like we did before, turn around and talk to the 2 people in back of you. So 4 here, 5 here, 5 there, 5 there, or maybe 6 there, 5 there, right here, go that way. You 4, and let's see what we got. How about you 3, and then you 3? Ryan? For the next 5-6 minutes, if you need more time, just let me know. I want you to discuss the issue of mental. In general, I want you to think about how big a problem is it. Maybe share if you've seen anybody in your ward or any place else where it's touched their lives, and how effectively is society dealing with the issue of mental health right now? Are we taking good care of that issue? Do we have some problems we need to work on? And so I'm going to call in about 6-7 minutes for one of your spokespeople to share 1 or 2 ideas that you've discussed that you want to share with the whole class. So everyone familiar with what I mean by mental health? Okay. It's very common, you know, when, you know, April, we can see she has a bandage on her arm. Her physical health problem is very visible. But mental health issues aren't very visible. We don't put a cast on our brain or our hearts or our emotions and let everyone see that, oh, we have, you know, an issue with that. They're not visible. So mental health, we're talking about emotional health, our mental stability. Cool. You know, so discuss that. And any questions before you break in your groups? Okay. Why don't you decide first off who's going to speak, and then they'll know to take the best notes. Introduce yourselves if you don't know each other. If you don't know everyone's name, tell them your name.
Same.
Morning. Morning, Marilyn. All right. All right, come back together now, please. All right. Who wants to start sharing something that you discussed that would be beneficial to the whole class? What is everyone in agreement that this is a pretty big problem?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone think that people are just faking it?
Some.
I think that there's just like a lack of general knowledge about mental health, like as a whole. People don't really know a whole lot about it, and so you can just, I can come to my own conclusions about my mental health, and I wouldn't really be knowing what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh. Yeah, when someone can't get out of bed because they're depressed and they have the curtains drawn and they don't want to see anyone, the common reaction for people is to come in, turn on the lights, throw open the window. Hey, it's a beautiful day. Get out of bed. Come on, let's get going. That type of positive mental attitude doesn't solve mental health problems, just like, when you're on crutches, come on, throw the crutches away, just walk, you'll be fine. All right, who wants to be going first?
Sorry, I wasn't wanting to go up first. I was just going to add.
All right, add something.
Lack of knowledge and understanding. There was something that I was watching on a TED Talk sometime, and it had something about autism, how people would diagnose them with autism, but through further research, they found that it wasn't truly autism that they had, that it was something else that they could fix, but it just manifested itself as the same as autism. So people had been growing up with autism, well, what they thought was autism their whole life, but it was just a misdiagnosis that they were only just able to figure out recently.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty obvious when you have a compound fracture and the bone is sticking out from your skin that, wow, they have a broken arm. But when they're acting different, you say, well, is that just their personality? Is that just them? Or is there some fixable issue that could improve their well-being if we only knew what it was?
And they were able to function as normal people afterwards.
Would not fixing our mental health problems solve a portion of our homeless problem? I think I've seen some studies where a lot of our homeless people are really people that have mental problems. So if we give them a home to live in, is that really going to solve their problem? I have a brother-in-law who his job is working in a shelter, a government-run facility, and they're there, but they don't stay that long, and they're back out on the streets, by their choice. It's not like giving them a home will solve the homeless problem. All right, who wants to go next? All right.
I just shared two ideas from our group discussion. When we talk about now, depression is a really common mental problem, and the things might cause depression. Maybe they consider themselves too much, and then they kind of think about how outside world can influence them. And
Depression, you're saying?
Yeah, and then you can really isolate themselves, then get for others.
Okay. So we know there's a difference between momentary situational depression and a long-term physical chemical imbalance depression. You got to separate with depression. Everyone has the blues. You're having a bad day. You're having a down day. Your girlfriend dumped you, but that will pass without medical intervention. And then there's the depression. You have to figure out, with a diagnosis, is this a long-term something that needs to be treated? All right. Go on. Was that everything you said, or was some more?
And the second thing, maybe some people how to say that kind of multiple, like people have multiple person in
Multiple
their
Oh, yeah.
personalities.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's That's one, another disorder. Okay, and what about it?
Because I read about it is like 24 billion. I read in Chinese. I forgot how they say in English, but it tells about a guy. His name is Billy, and then he was a rapist, but he was the judge counting innocent because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's 24%.
Okay. So he got off by reason of mental defect or mental insanity. Okay. So what are you going to do to solve that issue? What are the implications for society that you talked about? Anything in your group, Anthony?
I kind of brought it up, and my grandpa's a good example. My grandpa, very knowledgeable, intelligent man, but when he retired, he started serving, but it was more of, he started kind of being more to himself, doing genealogy. Don't really know what grandpa did, but he's 96 and he pretty much has Alzheimer's now. And I think it's kind of a mentality of not exercising the muscle, the brain. And so I think he's lost part of his mind because of, and kind of almost regressed in childhood form because he wasn't constantly serving and doing these other things. I mean, you look at every general authority there is out there, and for the most part, they've got all their wits about them.
Idle thoughts.
I mean, it's the idea that they're constantly working, and there's never a time to slow down and let that muscle die.
So do you think Heavenly Father, one of the reasons he has temple work is to give old people something to do? I'm being serious.
Amen.
I think about these people that it gives us something to do, because one of the biggest problems of old people is they feel useless. They don't feel needed. They don't have no reason to get up and go to work. There's no work for them, so they go to the temple. I think Heavenly Father had an ulterior motive there for that. Think about just depression and Alzheimer's, let alone what we've already talked about. What was it? What was the illness the kid you mentioned? Autism. I mean, look how huge those three alone are. If we don't get a handle on society on treating those three just right there, we'll be overwhelmed in society. We won't be able to deal with this. Michael.
Okay. This is an interesting situation for me because my sister has Asperger's syndrome and a few other conditions, so it was interesting to know with that. We didn't know for the longest time what it was that she had. But taking a look at her, she's a very bright, very intelligent person, and she knows a lot of things and is able to do things in her own way, in her own style. The problem with that is that her style conflicts with the way that normal society does things. Normal society has developed a process for helping people or helping the general public to push things along and push those ideas forward, but it doesn't always take into account people that think in a different manner.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that could be helpful and productive for people with different forms of mental health issues would be to find their strengths, find their talents, what is it that they're good at, and find ways to actively put those talents into use and make them feel useful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did anyone think of a possible social endeavor in your discussion groups? Charles?
I just think that it needs to be integrated into the overall healthcare system as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think mental health should be a part of, like my insurance plan should cover mental health, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that people should be having checkups with a psychologist or someone as well as.
Would you pass?
Probably not.
Question is, how many of us would pass?
Think of how we've done with physical disabilities. You know, we've finally, you know, the Americans with Disabilities Act, we've sensitized society to those type of issues. And now maybe this is the next wave of the future of sensitizing society to the mental health issues and helping us integrate and, you know, use the wonderful people they are in the ways that they can best be used and contribute and function in society. JJ and then Matt, sorry.
Our group talked about managing stress and more like preventive education, preventing ways we can maintain our health, and two things that go part of that. There's a physical health triangle where first thing a psychologist asks you when you go in to see him is, I learned in psychology classes, they ask you how much sleep are you getting? And so one part of the physical triangle is sleep, another part is diet, and then another part is exercise. If you're lacking in one of these areas, you're unbalanced. Sleep, are you going to bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time every morning, and how much sleep are you getting? If you correct your sleeping pattern, you're going to feel a lot more sharp with your mind, you're going to be able to think better. Are you eating a salad, or are you drinking enough water?
Yeah.
Some students have gone to the clinic because they aren't drinking enough, and so that also affects your thinking, and then having a complete balance is that. And then
yeah. Does anyone, I actually discussed this with my yesterday, you know, we learned of the sad loss of one of our students yesterday from Mongolia. And does anyone know, I thought to myself, I wonder if our campus has more issues with health, not just mental health, but beyond that, because we have so many people coming from different parts of the world sharing germs. You know, it's like, well, you know, I've been working at home for 14 years. I haven't been out in an office environment. When I started to work in the nursery at church with little kids, for the, you know, being around little kids a lot more than I ever have been, I got sick very quickly because I wasn't used. I didn't have any of those antibodies build up from always being around them and having any kids at home with me. Does anyone know, do we have some interesting health issues here on campus? Anyone ever heard about that? Yes.
Like for influenza or the flu.
What?
The flu. That's just like something minor, but like I just took a survey the other day, and since the flu is during the winter seasons and everybody is coming from different hemispheres of the earth, and winter seasons are different and opposites, when we come together, it's like year round.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was kind of sad.
I have actually felt better since I've come to Hawaii. I usually have a constant allergies, sniffing, sneezing all the time when I'm in Utah. I barely have any of that here in the last 2 months. So I've actually come and had better health here than I've had. You comment on that issue?
Sorry, but not, yeah, it is actually, I have a comment on that issue, and then Ashton has a comment also she'd like to bring up. My comment is related to health issues. We were kind of talking about in our group how back when someone has a health issue, they kind of or even a health disability, we'll say it's kind of not looked down upon anymore. But before we kind of before the medical industry had some advancements and knew what was wrong with health issues and things like that, it was like if somebody was sick, they looked down on it. You know, back in the day, they didn't want to touch them, they didn't want to get near them. But now that we know what's going on, it's not as taboo. It's not so stay away from me. But mental issues is something that we don't really know much about. And when someone has a mental issue, we're kind of afraid of that person. Stay away from me. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't want to talk to you. It's kind of we separate ourselves because I think of our lack of knowledge about that.
How many of you have ever had an uncomfortable situation with a homeless beggar, where it wasn't the money issue, it was more of your interaction and what they were talking about, and you didn't know how stable they were, and you maybe even feared for your safety? Yeah, I mean that, you know, this is a big issue, the stigma. Let me give you an example of how stigmas can really change. 20 years ago, you remember your great-grandpas? Well, you guess you were 0 age, some of you. So, but let's say 20 years ago, you had the old grandpas, they couldn't hear very well. So they had these big, thick hearing aids, and you know, the batteries and the electronics weren't very good, so they were big things around their ears sometimes. And so it was a stigma to wear a hearing aid. It shouted to the world, you're old, you know, you're hard of hearing. And so a lot of people that needed help with their hearing needed to wear a hearing aid, but they wouldn't because they were pride or didn't want to look old, you know, all those issues. Now, look how it's changed. Now that you have your Bluetooth receivers, it's cool to have something around your ear. So the whole hearing aid industry has dramatically changed. Now, it used to be you used to put, they called it in your ear canal. You had it here. Now, 60% of the hearing aids that are sold are a little thing right behind the ear, and then a clear plastic tube just goes down to your ear, and they aren't worried about having anything behind their ear anymore because the stigma of having something hanging on your ear doesn't mean that you're old and, you know, decrepit. Now, you have something in your ear, it's a status symbol. You know, oh, I have Bluetooth, I have a cool phone. So that's a good example of how stigmas can quickly change. And interesting, I was involved with a company in the hearing aid business. They thought this was going to be the way forever, that you know, you wanted to make it as small as possible to be inside your ear. That was what they focused on. They totally missed this trend. They were late getting products out that were called behind the ear. And they lost their market leadership and their stock plummeted 90%. So if you aren't attuned to the changes in your area, you can really miss out on those trends and really hurt your business. Did we finish? Oh, Ashlyn's comment?
Yeah, it's Ashley.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment. You said that because of the international nature of our campus, that maybe people have more germs. I was doing some things at the counseling center, and because of the international nature of our campus, there's a lot of mental health issues that come up that wouldn't normally come up on another campus, because there's so many cultures and so many students that are so far away from home, in a new place and eating new foods and having roommates from different countries. There's a lot of like depression or conflicts and things, that anxiety that comes up that the counseling center sees that they wouldn't normally see somewhere else.
Good point. Thank you. All right. Another group. Yes.
I wasn't good.
Little early Alzheimer's there, Shem? Yeah. We'll come back to you. How about over here? Anyone over here? All right, Allie.
We were looking more just at like physical kind of, but it's still mental. We were looking, there's a show on TLC, I believe it's called Hoarders, that we were discussing.
Quarters? Hoarders. Oh, hoarders.
And just their obsession with keeping all their stuff. And so like, we think that's definitely a mental health, and just the fact that some of these people were so crazy. I guess there was an episode like, there's ladies you couldn't let go of her dead cats even, you know, so her garage is full of these dead cats, you know. So just the obsession with holding on to things and just the fact that they can't let go.
Remind me Tuesday to tell you my favorite story about hoarders and how I blew it and could have been made actually money for me, but I wasn't attuned to the problem. Did you finish?
Well, yeah, but we were just saying also that like everyone has an actual like mental disorder, and just some of us don't have that big. We're all afraid of something, whether it's, you know, we're scared of heights, or we don't want to walk in the rain, or, you know, we can't take elevators. Like we all have that like mental health against something. It's just the amount and the level and the craziness, whether it's crazy normal or if it's crazy, that we judge people on.
I like that. Crazy normal, crazy. Yeah. All right. So did you decide it's something we need to focus on in the social arena?
Just investigating the situation with each person, because each person does have something. We have to like investigate and get to know people, and having a mentor or close friend or family member be able to help you and get you to the right counseling place is really one of the best ways to handle each mental situation.
Good. Max?
One thing that came up in our group was that a lot of this, big problem, at least here in the US, of mental disorders that really don't actually exist.
Okay, tell us what you mean by that.
Well, for example, look at how, and this is one thing that's come up, two things. One of them is like, for example, how many students are told they have ADHD. In my home state, Alaska, I got online and you can take the ADHD test to see if you, as a student, have ADHD. And if you do, you are required by the state to take calming drugs, or you are not allowed to go to the public school, but since you're required to take the thing, you have to take the drugs. These are the three kickers that teachers are asked to watch students for to see if they have ADHD. Check yourself to see if you have any of these things. Laughter, smiles constantly, talks with friends. Those are their three things that were proof positive that you had ADHD. And I was sitting there taking the test going, this is pretty ridiculous because everybody I know does these three things. But yet, and this is what the state was using to pass off, as, oh, you have ADHD, you need to buy these prescription medications. Another scientific report I read found that they did this big study of people that went to see psychologists regularly, and they found that a good chunk of them never had, their mental disorder was thinking they had a mental disorder. They didn't really have it, they were a hypochondriac. But because it's good for business, they found a lot of psychologists won't really discourage that because it makes them a good chunk of change.
Okay. All right, who has things they still want to share? Oh, here, I'm going to write them down to discuss. So, Joni, you want to share something? Michael, you want to share something?
We were just talking about how people didn't have an outlet, and so I was thinking you could start how to find people's weaknesses and strengths when they have mental disorders, because like Asperger's are usually typically really good artists, so you can start a business where you find their strengths, put them to work in that area, and let them do that instead of making them do this whole comprehensive thing.
One of my dreams that I've had for many years, come and go off the years, is have some type of business for the homeless to get them off the streets to use their talents that they do have. And if they want a job, if they can hold down a job mentally, to have someplace where they can have their talents utilized. Wouldn't that be great if every community had a place where the homeless could go and not just sit around on a cot, but actually do something productive?
Miramar, Florida, two summers ago, my wife and I were living down there, and there was every street corner for like maybe, I want to say a 6 to 8 mile radius. Every major corner there were homeless people that were out every morning passing out newspapers, and they had an actual, their own community newspaper. It was called like the Homeless Bulletin or something like that, honest to goodness. And it talked about how, like the headline was one day, 13 homeless people attacked by high school kids or something like that, And, but it was like somebody had organized these homeless people together and made a voice. The Homeless Voice is what it's called. And it was pretty cool.
Okay. All right, I need your help here. I want to solicit your creativity. What is an idea that would be beneficial to our class that we could have be for our assignment for Tuesday? I'm giving you the opportunity to suggest an assignment rather than me give you one. Does anyone have an idea of something that would be a beneficial assignment to progress us in our knowledge of social entrepreneurship?
Why not just make it broad, a social idea to help with mental issues in society, or some sort of anything just like that. It's just nice, and feel like we come up with a bunch, finding jobs for homeless or mentally ill patients.
All right, Max, can you add on that?
I was gonna go with the homeless thing. Like find, what's something we could do to reduce or help those who are homeless.
I think to help people, you have to have good mental health yourself. So I think we should take time to improve our own mental health and then tell you what we did to do that.
All right, you've heard 3 ideas. You want to have general mental health issues. What was yours, Max? Homeless issues, JJ?
All go to counseling services and assess ourselves and find out what we have.
They don't hate us. I don't want to be told how many yards.
All right. You get to vote. Which of the 3 do you want to present some ideas and brainstorm and think and write 100 words on general mental health? Do you want to write 100 words and think about homelessness, or do you want to do some self-exploration about your own state of mental health? What? All right. Hey, all right, good point. You can do 1, 2, or 3. All right? You can talk about homelessness, you can talk about mental health in general, or you can talk about your own mental health.